You missed some important news from the LGBTQ+ community this week. To ensure you are current, we are recapping that important news. Here's what you may have missed. The Village People told Queer America to go west, and 2.7 million LGBTQ+ did. In July 2021, for the first time ever, the Census Bureau initiated a series of nationwide surveys that included questions about sexual orientation and gender identity, and those numbers have continued to be tracked by many groups. The results are notable, especially for California. The state has the largest lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender population, 2.7 million, and that's 2.7 million of LGBT in our nation. Texas is second with 1.8 million, and Florida is third with 1,750,000 LGBT population. Here are some of the key facts about California's large and diverse LGBT population. California's LGBT community includes a broad range of identities, not all of which are captured in the census data. According to this data, about half of LGBT adults in California describe themselves as bisexual, similar to the rest of the United States. Slightly over 1/3 describe themselves as gay or lesbian, and 15% as transgender. So this week, we look at where we are in the LGBTQ+ population and what states we live in, and also some that we don't. California's share of adults who identify as LGBT is 9.1%, and that is considerably higher than the share in the rest of the nation, which averages 7.9%. And even Texas had 8.4% of the LGBT population. According to this data, about half, 49% of all LGBT adults in California describe themselves as bisexual, which is similar to the rest of the country. Now, Gallup did an exhaustive study last year and came up with very similar numbers. Their number was 7% in terms of average. The census report and the update since its first initiation is 7.9%. That's a really good place to pin evaluation of communities, because whether you're closeted in places that are not very welcoming to LGBT, like Mississippi, for example, still the 7.9% is a good metric number that the study proves. It's also interesting here that California is overperforming, which is an indication that people have moved to California to tip the number higher, a full 1.5 higher than what is normal in the rest of the country. I think the big surprise is that this gigantic blue state is way overperforming in LGBT, but number 2 is very red Texas, which is even higher than number 3, which is very red Florida. So it's interesting that the red states are right there with California, not to the same degree, but they're right there. So LGBT, even with the assaults that we see in Texas and Florida, they're right there in terms of significant numbers.
It's funny because you would think that somebody would be, I mean, for me, right? Like I've only lived in big cities that are progressive, right? Like once I came out, I was like, that's it. I'm either going to live in the Village, or I'm going to live in the Castro, or I'm going to live here on South Beach, you know, back when it was gay, right? But most people don't think that way. Like where they grow up is where they stay. Yeah. So they end up living in places like Abbott-led Texas, and that's where they stay because that's where their family's at. You know, I'm surprised on a bunch of different parts of this. We're number 3. That's surprising. New York is not even on there as top 3. Right, they're right under us, you know?
Following the statistics of the most populous states in the country, and California, Texas, Florida, and New York are the top 4. So kind of like goes with that. I mean, it's percentage, right? Yeah. My question is about this data set is the age of the group that was sampled, because 49% of bisexuals is interesting to me.
Do you think that is a high or a low number?
It's high,
yeah,
in my opinion.
And I just want to echo to you, only because I reported it at Queer News Tonight, Gallup came to the exact same conclusion. Yeah. Half of the LGBTQ community identifies as, in fact, a little over. Gallup, I think in memory, was 55%.
Wow.
That 50, more than half, but let's say generally for the sake of conversation, half identify as bisexual.
Because I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that the younger you are, the chances are
more
higher
fluid.
that
You're more open,
fluid, and more, still trying to decide. May still, labeling yourself bisexual. The older you are, you pretty much know, and then you change. Maybe many of us started being bisexual. If you ask, people in their 20s, and now us in their 40s or 50s, we know.
Yeah.
One thing. I'm sorry. You go.
No, I was just going to say that. I would love to stare at how California gays leverage their political power, because they have. California is a minority coalition supermajority government. They have got supermajorities in their legislatures like Republicans have here. I would love to know how they did it, how they were able to bring it all together, because Florida has a very similar composition as far as minority, underserved, neglected communities. I would love to know how they did it, because Florida is just the 180-degree opposite. And I think that would be the biggest takeaway I would take
actually,
from this.
I do have some perspective on that. I read that one of the reasons California is able to accomplish what they do, which is this progressive, overwhelming majority progressive philosophy, is you have a very significant LGBT population, which is normally progressive anyway, but you have two other big segments in California. Besides retirees. Retirees are generally not progressive. They're more conservative. It's one of the reasons Orange County in California is so conservative, is because of its significance of seniors. But the other two big demographics in California that kind of tilted overwhelmingly is entertainment industry, of film, television, and all of the related industries that attract people from all over the country, that even if they're not actually in it, they're a waiter or a server or in a hotel trying to get into the entertainment industry, that have moved from Missouri or Kansas, and that's attracted. And then the third big demographic area is tech. And the technology in Northern California is overwhelmingly progressive in their thinking, very green, etc. And those three combinations are really what I think experts say is what contributes to.
And you think we're three because of like Disney and places like that?
We're in the game because of that, and South Florida has been this big blue island. What's interesting about this is that California is kind of looking down their nose. When Newsom ran the ads for Charlie Crist, he was making fun of DeSantis, but he was contrasting himself of going, DeSantis is having growing power in America, so I'm going to attack him from very powerful California. But in many respects, Florida is losing ground, because while we have this significant LGBT population, we don't have the big strengths like California does. And as a result, we're blue islands, and in fact, smaller blue islands. You can't say that Miami-Dade County is a reliable blue county anymore.
Not anymore.
You cannot. No. And it's the number 4 school district in America. It's one of the top 8 metropolitan communities in America, but not reliably progressive anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
And we are. And I mean, the surprising fact that, Texas and Florida are so gay, but on the other hand, people are people, gay people are not, and they come because of bread and butter issues. A lot of them are basically there for work, a lot of them are basically there for retirement because they want to leave the cold. But the point is, we need to figure out how to leverage our political power to get more representation with our allies in those states' governments. And structurally, we are on the back foot already because of tons of gerrymandering and restrictiveness.
Yeah, just one more thought. As we were having this conversation, did anybody have the Village People singing in their head, or was it just
it was just you?
I prefer the Pet Shop Boys version with the Gay Men's Chorus of New York.
Okay. All right, there you go. Keep watching the only television news in the world from our LGBTQ+ community, and stay informed on everything that is important for and about our diverse LGBTQ+ community.